Hi guys, welcome to AES 2020. We're here at the Eventide studio. My name is Patrick Flores. I'm the product manager for Pro Audio at Eventide, mainly working on the H9000. I also play in a band called Bad Mothers, as well as do a lot of hip hop for the label Almost Never Dead. So today I kind of want to work on a cinematic style trap beat, kind of in the vibe of Spiderman Into the Spiderverse. That's really been like my inspiration lately. I love that movie and I love the music in that movie. So today we're going to be using that with the H9000 as a sound design tool. So I'm going to take kind of simple sources, so like regular piano, guitar, maybe even a slide and EBow, and sometimes my vocals, and then we're going to really transform that using the H9000 and the algorithms that are built into it. So my setup so far is I'm going to run my guitar through the Kemper, and that's when I'm going to be using guitar, but for the most part I'm going to be using virtual instruments with this Arturia Keylab 88. And then the 9000 is plugged into the HD Omni. So we're actually using the new H9000 Pro Tools HD expansion card. So that's plugged into the HD Omni via 16 channel mode, although it can do 32 channels. So right now, I'll even show it to you here. If we go into Pro Tools, you can see in the hardware setup, that we have HDIO as an H9000. So cool. That's going to be my setup, and let's check out this beat. Cool. So to get started, I already actually made a beat using some cymatic samples in Pro Tools, just to kind of get the vibe, and I kind of knew what tempo I want to get the feel of. So the tempo so far is at 150, and here's the beat. Let's just play it back real quick. Start off with no kick or snare. So it's definitely a trap beat, and I like the feel of that. So I think to get that cinematic vibe, I don't really have any string virtual instruments in here or brass. I kind of want to layer first with piano though. I actually already have a piano virtual instrument set up here with the Arturia Piano V2. So let's go with the key A minor. I don't really know how to play piano proficiently, so hitting all the white keys is going to be very helpful. Cool, let's play around with some ideas first. Cool. So I like that. I like that starting point of a little bit of an arpeggiation on the piano, but I'm already hearing that it's missing a lot of texture. So let's go to the H9000. Right now, I'll show you over here. We have that already hooked up, the first effects chain to Pro Tools. And just to recap, if you guys aren't familiar with H9000, you can use up to 4 effects chains and up to 16 algorithms each, series or parallel. 16 algorithms altogether, 4 algorithms per effects chain. So for the first one, I'm already kind of hearing a big, lush reverb to go into this. And I know a really good, my go-to lush reverb in the H9000 is the Wormhole plugin. So just type that up, Wormhole, and drag it in. That easy. See what that sounds like with this. So you hear that massive reverb with this insane modulation, but already I know I want to lower the mix on that, at least to 50, maybe 40%. So let's give that a try. Let's go to 40%. Way better and way cleaner than the dry piano. It just adds like that big atmosphere to it. So that actually might already be all set for this, but for the sake of not having really any stringed instruments or anything that gives you that kind of like high-pitched kind of bow sound, I want to add an algorithm called Adventure, which is basically, it's like the algorithm crystals, which takes your source instrument and pitches it up left and right, an octave up, octave down, like a shimmer mixed in with a delay. So I guess you'll hear it here. So for this, I don't want it to affect my already reverb signal, so I'm gonna route it in parallel. And to do that, we just put it next to that algorithm and then drag our connections in. Just like this. Cool, so now we have an algorithm Adventure in parallel. I might have to lower the output on that to kind of compensate the volume, but let's see what this sounds like. Way different than when we started. So just to give you a reference, that's just 2 algorithms that we're using, and here's what it sounds like bypassed. Totally dry, and then when we turn on the H9000's wormhole and Adventure, on this effects chain, we get this. Pretty cinematic. So I think I'm actually gonna stick with this, but I might lower the output of Adventure a little bit. And the good thing about like having the H9000 handle all these effects is that it's not being printed onto the track. We can actually just, since it's all passing through the 9000, we can edit it in post and really adjust our effects after it's already been, tracked via MIDI. So let's do that. Let's track the first pass. And I might have to quantize this a little bit because I'm definitely not going to play it on time. Cool, so we have that loop. I'll just quantize it, maybe add some more embellishments, and then let's add some bass after this. Cool, now that we've laid down some piano, I kind of want to add some bass to this, but before that, I did embellish the piano a little bit and quantized it, so I'll just play that back real quick so you guys can kind of hear how it changed. So I added some embellishments just to kind of add some movement to the song, and I still kept that in that effects chain. So actually, if you look at this effects chain, we're only using 2 of the algorithms of the 16 that we're allotted to use. So maybe later on, I can actually do some parallel processing where I send it to a different I/O within the same effects chain. But for now, let's start a new effects chain. I do want to add some bass to this, and I already have something pulled up, a virtual instrument pulled up, which is the Prophet from Arturia. I'm just using a lot of Arturia instruments today. And just dry, it sounds like this. So I like that sound. Let's try out some bass ideas. I'm guessing I kind of just want to follow the pattern of the song generally. But let's try out a few things. Okay, so already I want that to be thicker. It's getting a weird kind of like a real kind of buzzy on the top end. I just want it to sound beefier, and I don't know exactly what to do with the 9000 there, but the good thing about this is that we already pre-made some effects chain presets that you can pop in, and it's pretty easy to search for like different sounds that you can try out. So let's audition a few things. So I'm going to create a new effects chain. I can just do that by just basically picking out the effects chain that I want first. So up here on search, I can just type up bass, and everything with the bass on its name will be there. So bass beef, that's pretty much kind of what I want to do, but I don't know how it sounds like yet. So let's drag that in and then route it in. So in this one, I'm going to route it to Pro Tools 3 and 4. So I just have to select my I/O, put it into the insert, 3 and 4 for the output, connect it, and we're all set. After I put the same set of I/Os here, so that'll be 3 and 4 as well. So this is what that's gonna sound like. Oh, sorry, emote closed. This is what that's gonna sound like with that effects chain. I don't know what this is gonna be, but let's check it out. It actually sounds kind of nice. It adds that grittiness to it, but it loses a lot of the low end. So let's try a different effects chain. Let's try synth bass. Since we are using a Prophet, it might fit in nicely. Let's check it out. So I just dragged that in. It's still going to be connected, and here is what that's going to sound like. I love that blend of like grittiness with the thickness of the low end, so I think I'm going to use that. Let's do a record pass and see if it fits in with the context of the song. Oop. I like that little bend, the pitch bend there. That kind of adds a little bit of feel to it. So I like that sound. I think I'm going to stick with it. I might try out a few different bass lines and a few different variations later on, but for now, to kind of start it off with, I think I'm good with that. Cool, so now that we added the bass part, our song is really forming into something that's kind of a banger. And I embellished it a little bit and quantized it. So let me play that back, at least the first loop, so you can kind of get an idea of where it went to. Cool. So I really like the way that's sounding. I like the energy it's bringing. It's definitely giving me sort of Spiderman into the Spiderverse cinematic vibes. I kind of want to embellish the second part of that loop so it's not just repeating the whole time, and it'll give us some room. So what I actually did is I kept the bass part, but I took out the piano pads, and then we can add some more instruments to that. Probably gonna go with a little bit of guitar using the EBow to emulate some strings, but a little bit more gritty and rock and roll. So here's what it sounds like in the part that we want to add the guitars to without the piano. I'll play it right before that. So that already sounds cool. But I want to just add some kind of far in the backgrounds, like guitar, EBO stuff. So I'm gonna run it through the Kemper, and I'm using a Reverend and an EBO. So let's try out a few things. Actually, before I even track this, I want to already get a good sound going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new effects chain on Emote just for this guitar. So let's do that real quick. I actually don't want to rely, I know exactly how I want it to sound, and I don't know if any of the effects chain presets really get me to that place, so I'm just going to build one from scratch. So we can actually drag in template default, and that's just going to give us one through algorithm. And I'm going to route this to Pro Tools 5 and 6 onto our next inserts. So at this point, the guitar, after I put in this insert on its track, which is also going to be 5 and 6, will be going through the H9000. It's still going to be dry, but I want to drag in this algorithm called SP 2016, which we also have as a plugin, but I think it's my favorite reverb. It's really lush. I know what I want it to sound like in terms of it being far in the background, and this algorithm has a position knob, which will really help kind of give that illusion of being far in the back of a space. Load that in. Already it's kind of sounding pretty ethereal and almost where I want it. I like that. I actually like that. I might want to make the position a little bit further and actually maybe mix it down to 70%. I want it to be mostly reverb, but I still want to get a little bit of that dry, gritty guitar signal in there. And then we're going to mangle the sound afterwards. Let's see what this sounds like. That's closer to where I want. Let's bring the position all the way to 100, and I'm going to change the reverb type to modern stereo room. I'm also going to crank up the decay to about 4 seconds and take off the pre-delay. That's where I want it to sound like. Cool. I think I like that. I am hearing some harmonies that I want to maybe experiment with. So I'm going to move that insert into Ascend. But so far, I think it's sounding pretty cinematic. We're definitely getting that vibe of big, rich atmospheres mixed in with a dry trap beat. Yeah, I think it blends real nicely. I like that. Let me try to figure out some harmonies real quick, but I think I'm going to stick with that part at least. That's it. Let's do a take. I don't think I'm going to EBO this one because I just want the note, so I'm just going to kind of, strum it. pretty happy with those harmonies. I might add a little bit more ear candy in the next section, but for now I'm happy with those parts, and I'm happy with how it sounds with the 9000. Actually, you know what? Let's actually maybe mangle the sound a little bit more, because right now we're just using a simple reverb, and we can definitely do a little bit more sound with this, especially that we're summing both guitars into this. So let's try a few things. Maybe pass it through a flanger, and then into a distortion, and then into another reverb. I don't know. So now that I recorded an EBow guitar texture to that kind of second section of this song, and put it through the H9000, just through SP2016, I want to add some more like experimental sounds in that particular section using that same source. So I'm going to add some phaser after the reverb, which is going to sound interesting, and then maybe in parallel or series add some distortion, and finally sum that out with more reverb to kind of just blend it all. But let's listen to what I have so far. That's a nice B section. I think adding some more kind of effects to just mangle that up a bit is really gonna kind of take it to that next level. So let's add some phaser after that, and let's see how that sounds. It might sound a little weird. I want to use instant phaser. I'll just drag that in and automatically connect it. It's not going to interrupt my routing. Right away, I know I want to lower the age, because I know I want this to sound more like kind of a up-to-date modern phaser with no crackles and pretty clean, really. I know I want to raise the feedback, and I want to maybe raise the depth a little bit, as well as make the rate around generally like 35 hertz. Or sorry, 0. There you go. Cool. So let's see what that sounds like. I really like that. I might mix it down just to 70% or so, just because I still do want to hear the reverb cut through a little bit. But I like the disorienting kind of vibe it's given us. So let's keep that. Next, I want to add some more sort of like distortion to this. And in here, you can actually audition a bunch of different distortions by just clicking effect type and then clicking distortion, and then you have a bunch of different distortion types here. Let's do pandemonium. I don't know what that one sounds like. I'll solo out the guitar so we can kind of hear just that source. Oh, that is a nice freaking texture. I really, really love like how that just mangles up my sound and just pretty much compresses it to it won't die down until the sound is totally over. So it just compresses like the sound like crazy and distorts it. And after that, I know I just want to blend it a little bit more with some more reverb, and I'm just going to use the same reverb I used before. So I'm just going to put SP2016 there. I want to mix that down a lot more, so around like maybe 25%. Keep the decay where it is, and make this kind of the same modern stereo room. Keep the position and everything else pretty much around the same. So that's just going to blend the sound nicely. Yeah, so just without like any of these effects. So without any of these effects, this is what it sounds like. Let me just bypass the 9000 real quick. It's a totally different vibe than... Cool. Let's hear that in the context of the song. Let's see if it fits in. I like that. What I might want to do is do a little bit of automation so I can automate and bypass the distortion right when it goes to the transition out, so it's a cleaner rather than it being distorted and sticking around. So I'll do some of that, and then we'll move on to the next part where we add some more ear candy to the song. Cool. So in the last section, I added some guitars and used some EBO to create this nice rich texture that just sustained the notes. I put that through the H9000, added a ton of reverb, put that through some phaser, so the reverb itself is also being modulated through that phaser, and then fed that through a distortion to mangle the sound. And then I just kind of summed all that into some more reverb to clean out the sound and make it a little bit more creamy. What I didn't talk about earlier was that I actually added some automation on inside Emote with Pro Tools. So the way I did that was I went into here, into my distortion. What I wanted to do was just to automate the end of the distortion so it turns off right at the end of the phrase, so it gives it a nice smoother transition. So I did that by going into my distortion, right-clicking on the bypass, clicking mapping, and then I mapped that to function 1. In Pro Tools, I put effects chain 3, function 1, as my automatable parameter, and just automated the bypass right over here. So here's what that sounds like comped. Automation. So it just made that transition a lot smoother, and it didn't carry over that distortion and the reverb that was being fed into that distortion. So you might have noticed I have a mic over here. What I want to do now is experiment with adding kind of like nice, rich, Billie Eilish-esque harmonies to this, basically texture we're making. So with no effects, this is how it's going to sound. It's just going to sound dry. It's just going to sound like my vocals. So there's a lot of pitch-based effects in the 9000, but I already know which one I want to use, and you can actually find it in our other stuff too, like the H9 called Quadravox. It's just a nice key-based harmony where I can set my intervals and really create the kind of chord that I really want to do. So let's plop that in. So first, I already know what I want to do. I want to turn down the delay. I want it to all be kind of instantaneous, so I'm just going to turn all the delays off, basically. I already kind of know which intervals I want to do, but I have to set it to the key first. And actually here in key, you can just type in A. Drag it in to A, and then select minor since that's the key of the song. Let's make pitch A a third above, pitch B a sixth below, pitch C a third below, and pitch D an octave below. So that's already in the right place. So altogether, this is what that harmony is going to sound like. This harmony. So I know what I want to add after that too. I want to just make sure it's kind of blending with some nice reverb. Black hole's always choice, but I kind of want to add mod echo verb here since we have access to that anyway. Drag it in series. And that's what it sounds like without the harmony. Let's mix it back to about 30%. And with the harmony, it sounds like this. like that. Sounds sick. Cool. Let's track this section. So I actually think I like the way that sounds already. I'll listen back to it and see if it's a little bit out of tune, and then I'll kind of fix around it, but I really like how that added that texture. Let's add some more ear candy. I know that we have no more effect chains left, but we do have some more spots left. So a lot of these effect chains, we're not using all 4 algorithms. What I actually want to do is add a parallel effect on the first effects chain, and then also play some piano embellishments, but run that through this algorithm called Galaxy Borders. So let me do that right now. And an emote in the first effects chain, in the piano effects chain, I'm actually going to put in a parallel I/O. So you don't have to just sum your effects chains to stereo or quad or whatever you want to. You can actually use parallel I/Os within your effects chain too, so you can route it within or in and out of different I/Os. So for this one, I'm going to route it. I'm going to pop up the Pro Tools screen, and I'm going to use 9 and 10. I'm going to put that in slot 3, 4 here, and I'm going to drag those ins to Galaxy Borders. Cool. And the outs of Galaxy Borders, I'm going to put the 3 and 4 of the output. And then in 3 and 4, I'm going to assign that to Pro Tools 9 and 10. So all of a sudden, our piano sounds more ethereal. That's going to add a really nice texture in the background to just really give it that cinematic, spacey vibe. So let's kind of try a few things out and then see where it goes. Cool. I really love the kind of like just little ear candy Galaxy Borders added to that mix, especially with the piano. Cool. So next up, let's finish arranging this thing and let's get a nice banger going. So after adding some ear candy, I'm actually pretty happy with the song, and I got a chance to really sit down with it and kind of figure out the arrangement. I didn't go too crazy with it, but let's listen kind of through the whole song, and so you can hear kind of like the changes I've made, and I'll walk you through how I made those. There's still some more work that needs to be done with this mix-wise and arrangement-wise, but I'm pretty happy where we ended up. So I hope you guys take away something from this, and hopefully you guys can come find some inspiration to create your own arrangements and compositions. Thanks so much for checking it out.